everyone, and welcome to our next presentation of Get to the Point of Health. Today will be on keeping your financial health and well-being by avoiding scams. And we're fortunate today to have with us someone from the state of Connecticut Attorney General's office. And before I switch over to her to present, I'm just going to ask everyone who's viewing on Zoom to stay muted throughout the presentation, and then at the end of the presentation there'll be an opportunity to ask questions. Okay, so without further ado, we'll switch over to the presentation.
Great, thank you everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you, and thank you for participating. We may have a couple of glitches as we go because this is by trial and error, so we appreciate your patience. Scams are something that have been so prevalent in our society for so many years, and the amount of money that they take from people is absolutely astounding, and I'm going to be talking about that as we go further. I am Attorney General William Tong. Now, obviously, all of you know I am not the Attorney General. However, if I was to send you an email, a letter in the mail, you would have absolutely no idea that it really was not the Attorney General contacting you. This is just the start of what the scammers rely on in infiltrating your honesty and making a connection with you. That is why it is so important for everybody out there to do their own due diligence in truly finding out if you get a letter that you're not familiar with, a contact from somebody that you don't know. This is why it's so important for you to try to do your own research to find out who it really is that's reaching out to you. And certainly through this pandemic that we've been going through, a lot more people have been working from home. So you're more available during the day. That is why there has been such an uptick. That's one of the reasons why there has been such an uptick in all of these spam calls that you're getting and spam emails. Now, I really am from the Attorney General's office, and my name is Christine Buck. I am an investigator within the Attorney General's office in the consumer protection area. I have been with the Attorney General's office for almost 13 years, pretty much in the same role. It has changed a little bit more over the past 2 or 3 years, where we've really been trying to, my particular unit has really had a focus on the different scams out there. And again, a lot of that goes to the significant amount of money that is lost to the scammers every single day and every single year. So there has been, especially with Attorney General Tong, he has put a big focus on my particular unit working on these various scams. And just like we all like to have our money to put bread on our table, pay our bills and so forth, so do these scammers. And they're really great at what they do, or else they wouldn't be doing it. I've always said, for as many times as I've been giving this speech, it's just a real shame that they don't do something legally because they are so good at it. And I'm going to talk about a particular person a bit later in the presentation, excuse me, but I wanted to bring up the name of Frank Abagnale. I don't know if you've heard of him. They actually made a movie about his career starring Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's called Catch Me If You Can. And what they did was they took a lot of his experience and knowledge that he gained over being a very, very successful scam artist to the point where he went to prison for it. Once he got out of prison, our government did something that was very brilliant. They hired him to work with them. And now Frank Abagnale goes around the country. He has his own business, but he also goes around the country and provides lectures on ways to prevent yourself from being a target, steps that you can take to minimize your being a target. It's an incredibly fascinating presentation that he gives. I was fortunate enough to hear him a couple of years ago when he came to Central Connecticut State University and presented, made his presentation on behalf of AARP. He's just a dynamite guy. I had a question for him about a child's social security number and whether steps to take to protect it and so forth. And he was kind enough. He reached out to me, responded to my email, reached out to me, and actually he thanked me for what I was doing to prevent, people from being taken advantage of. I mean, here's, this notorious person, and he's thanking me, and yet through his work, he does so much to help educate people on this various topic. So with that background, I am going to go ahead and go through some of the information about the different scams out there. I'm going to talk about the ones that a lot of us are familiar with, some that you may not be, but you want to make yourself aware of. And then the steps that you can take to avoid becoming a victim, but then also what to do if you find that you are a victim. And then at the very end, as Christy said, we're going to have a question and answer session. So thank you again. And here we go. Okay. Okay, I am going to have to, and again, I apologize. This is a little bit of a, we're trying this for the first time, and I am going to have to rely on Christy. Can we do something so that we can get the whole screen over? I don't know if... And
I am going to pass it on to Jeanette to answer.
Okay.
So my view has the whole screen.
It does. Okay.
My view has a whole screen, and it has a gallery view down the side, but the orange block ends about a ways away from the visuals of all of your heads. So anyone out there who, I mean, if Pooh is not seeing it, she'll let us know for TV, and otherwise, I think everyone's seeing the whole screen.
Okay, great.
If you are in the gallery view here, I'm going to ask those I can see just to raise your hand if you can see the whole screen. Just raise your hand so we can see that you're seeing Christine's whole slide. Can
and
you do
Jeanette,
that?
I also minimized all the participants, so I think it's going to be okay now.
Okay, good. All right, so I think everybody's seeing you and they're seeing your full slide. I'm going to mute.
Great, thank you. Let's look at how effective the scammers are. And we're going to look at some startling statistics from 2020, because I think this really puts everything into perspective. Connecticut residents alone filed over 28,000 fraud complaints and 6,800 identity theft complaints. The fraud losses in Connecticut was $24 million, which is up almost 3 times as many as the previous year in terms of dollar losses. The top 3 report categories for Connecticut residents were ID theft, imposter scams, and online shopping. ID theft, that's when someone uses your personal information, such as your social security number, for financial gain. You may end up finding out that a credit card was opened up in your name, a bank account was opened up in your name, a mortgage was opened up in your name, anything like that. If you have good credit, that's what these scammers hope to capitalize on. And identity theft happens every 2 seconds. By the time this presentation is over, there's going to be hundreds of identity thefts that will have taken place. And once the scammers get the information, they will utilize it immediately. Sometimes they'll post it on websites. Sometimes they'll use it just for their own benefit. Credit card fraud. That is the most common way that the identity theft was done last year. Again, with the pandemic especially, a lot of people are working from home. A lot of people are homebound. So you're doing more purchases over the internet and over the phone. Much easier for them to gain access to your credit card information. And children, excuse me, are 51% more likely to be a victim of identity theft. And with that, I'm actually going to see if I can do this a little bit more here. I wanted to see the faces on this because this is so important. 51% of children are more likely to be a victim of identity theft. And I would like to, I'm going to ask Christy this. I'm going to pick on Christy. Christy, why do you think that children are more likely to be a victim of identity theft?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe they don't have the experience to be, maybe they're naive, maybe they're, that would be what I would guess.
Yep, and those are all absolutely valid answers. The most important answer is that a child, by the time they go to use their identification for anything, their social security number to make a purchase, maybe of a car, you're talking at least 16 years from the time that they're born and they receive a social security number to the time that they actually put something in their name, they have to at least be 16. So if a scammer can get a hold of a child's social security number, or especially an infant's social security number, they have at least 16 years to use that social security number to do all kinds of damage before, in all likelihood, it's going to be discovered. Because you're probably not inclined to run a credit check on one of your kids. But boy, if they go to get a car at, say, 16, 17, 18 years of age, that's when that credit check is going to be run. So that's why it is ever so important to try to protect your child, your grandchild's social security number and their identity information. And a little bit later, I'm going to talk about something that you can do to take steps to protecting that. Okay. I mentioned before that imposter scams is another big reporting category. That is where the person impersonates a government official, such as Attorney General Tong, or the IRS, or somebody from the government. You missed your jury duty. And that's when they impersonate a government official to try to scam you out of your identity or money. And of course, it's much easier to scam somebody over the phone, over the internet, anything that does not require you to be face-to-face and in person. I mean, we all know, if you're going to tell a fib or a lie, it's a lot easier to do when you're not face-to-face with somebody. Okay. And again, with the pandemic, where there are less and less point-of-sale transactions, and therefore not face-to-face, it's much easier to make these scams of it happen. Okay. Nationwide in 2020, consumers filed 2.2 million fraud complaints with the Federal Trade Commission. $3.3 billion, almost double than what it was in 2019. That's staggering money. Could you imagine having $3.3 billion in your pocket? Can you imagine if our government had it, what they could use that money for? Okay. The top nationwide reports in 2020 were the same as Connecticut: identity theft, imposter scams, and debt collection. And nearly 1 in 5 people have experienced identity theft more than once. How did the scammers usually conduct their fraud? Telephone. Again, a lot of people are home, especially over this last year. 31% of the fraud reports were done over the telephone. Also, those robocalls. Again, they wouldn't be doing those robocalls if they were not obtaining personal information that they can later use to scam. Okay? That's why I tell people, if you don't recognize the caller, you don't recognize the phone number, you certainly cannot rely on caller ID anymore because they spoof those numbers. Let it go to voicemail, let it go to your answering machine. Do not answer the call. The more that you are on the phone with the scammer, again, who does this all day long, this is their profession. They're really good at it. The longer you are on the phone with somebody, the more apt you are to release some type of personal information. Okay? Don't answer the phone. Don't even put yourself out there. Don't even answer the phone. Okay? The other way was texting and email. Again, you're not face to face with the person, somebody sends you a text message or an email, you really don't know who you're dealing with on the other end. And again, the use of credit cards as the payment method. Now, who is usually affected nationwide? The age group 60 to 69 for a resulting of $290 million. Then those 50 to 59. Why these two particular age groups as the top? People are getting ready to retire. They've gotten their finances in order. They've downsized a lot of times with their houses, or they're going to. Maybe especially with the way that the market is such a seller's market now. You want to downsize, you can make some pretty good profit in doing so. So you've got that money there. You've got your investments done. You know, you're starting to wind down, getting ready for retirement. So a lot of your finances are in order. Okay. Now, also, those people aged 19 and under had the same amount of reported losses as those 80 and above. However, those 80 and above lost a heck of a lot more money than the younger 19 and unders. 105 million to 28 million. Why? They had more money to lose. It's really as simple as that. Okay. Unfortunately, there has not been an update in this article, but in 2019, the Social Security numbers of hundreds of deceased people were used to earn nearly $30 million. The Social Security number of elderlies and deceased persons was used for work purposes. And again, if you have somebody that's an illegal person in this country, and you get a hold of a Social Security number of somebody that's already established themselves, that's like winning the lottery. Okay? Think about the Social Security numbers belonging to 1,000 persons over the age of 85 were used for $145 million in earnings. It's staggering. The top range of monetary loss was $1 to $1,000. People are not as inclined to notice, especially with losses between $1 and $100. You're not inclined to notice that as much as if it was a bigger number. And a lot of times you'll find if somebody has access to your bank account or your credit card, you tend to find withdrawals or purchases $999, $999. You know, anything under that, you know, that next big number. Again, it tends to fly under the radar more than the other numbers. Again, I talked about all the fraud complaints and the monetary losses. Those people aged 60 to 69, they're earning the most income. Then you've got those 30 to 39, because they're buying houses, they're buying new cars, you know, things of that nature, investing their money. Okay. In the last year, identity thefts most affected people ages 30 to 39. They've got their good credit established. A lot of those college loans have been paid off. You know, their credit's been run. They know it's good because they're looking again to invest, mortgages, things of that nature. Okay. And again, I just want to bring you back. A lot of these statistics, you know, they really pertain specifically to ID theft or fraud. So, you know, they're all closely related, but they do separate them out to give you specific numbers on the different age groups and the monetary losses. Okay, why are we getting contacted, especially those people in those vulnerable age groups? Again, you're getting ready to retire, you've saved for it, you tend to have fewer expenses, downsized. Seniors, very susceptible. Many are home during the day, they're lonely. Some of them, it's the only phone call they will have received in a couple of weeks. You welcome the phone call, you know, for those people that are lonely. And you let your guard down because you're so happy to have somebody to speak to. When I'm face to face with people, I usually play a little game with Social Security number. I am going to just tell you about the game that I play instead of actually playing, because it's easier to play it when I'm actually in front of people, but considering that's a video conference, I tell people about their Social Security numbers. We all know our, so many of us know our social security numbers by heart. Okay. And in part of the scheme that I play with them is I can tell them, look, I can say my social, because we all know it so well, I can say my social security number faster backwards than you can. And I'll tell them, go, and I always pick out a person. And I cannot tell you, but 9 times out of 10, the people that I'm having this engagement with will start repeating their number. After they think about it, then they start thinking about how to say it backwards, and they will be repeating it to me, which I immediately stop them and say, hey, what did I first say when I began my speech? I'm Attorney General Tong, and I'm not. So even though I'm saying I'm from the Attorney General's office, you really don't know where I'm from. And that is our most precious piece of personal information, our social security number. That is what gets us everywhere where we need to go in terms of purchases and credit and so forth. Okay. And again, it's really not that difficult. If somebody knows the last 4 of your social security number, it's really not that difficult to guess somebody's social security number. And at some point, click on one, or come up with one that's valid and legit. Because we know a lot of people know that the first 3 numbers are the origin, the region in the country where you apply for your social security number. Like in the Northeast, 040, 041, 042, 043. If you have the last 4, how much is it really going to take to tinker around with the 2 numbers in the middle before you really hit on a valid social security number? And again, if you have time on your hands and are looking to scam people, you're willing to put in that effort. Okay. How were the victims paid? As I mentioned before, mostly by credit card, then by the debit card. Both transactions that don't have to be done in person. You can do it over the phone, over an email, then a payment app. And lastly, a wire transfer. Those are some staggering numbers when you look at the amount of monetary loss that's involved. Now, one thing I do want to say is that, and I have it on the bottom there, if you happen to find out that that you provided either your bank information or your credit card information, contact that institution immediately. If a credit card is used, you have the opportunity to dispute those charges. With the debit card, you don't have that opportunity. And again, if you send money via wire transfer, as soon as you hit send, that money is gone. So kiss it goodbye. Okay. Why are many scammers successful? Most importantly, because it's built on fear, and it's fear and bullying built on emotion. You get that alarming phone call in, and again, the grandparent scam is a really good one, or the kidnapping scam, where you hear that a loved one is in trouble. As soon as you get that, and this is human nature, the hair on the back of our necks go up, we get, all hot and bothered here. And it's because your emotions have been triggered. And when your emotions have been triggered, common sense takes a back seat on it, because your emotions are kicking in, your fear is kicking in. The bullying that the scammer will a lot of times get to is also kicking in. So you're not thinking logically. Okay. And again, the other technique is that they don't do it face to face, making it a lot easier. Let's talk about some of the common scams. The unsolicited phone calls. As I said before, just don't respond, don't pick up, don't trust caller ID, don't press a number to be removed from their calling list, because a lot of times you press that number, it's just if it's a scammer, it's validating that it's an active phone number. Okay? What you can do is do your own homework on it. Google the phone number on the internet to see if it's really coming from that particular company. A lot of times, if it's not, other people have already posted about it, receiving this, a phone call from, your extended warranty on your car. I think everybody has been getting those calls. And any type of a phone call about that, a lot of times people will post what the nature of the phone call is. So you'll know, oh yeah, I got that one too. I'm right in the mix with everybody else that's getting these spam phone calls. Ask that caller for their phone number so that you can call them back. Okay. report the phone number to the Federal Trade Commission. Consider purchasing a call blocker. Those have been very helpful to a lot of people. And also contact your wireless carrier for options on blocking these calls. Sometimes the providers provide these free of service. Also, sometimes you can block up to 10 phone calls. If you keep on getting the same phone number in, you can go ahead and block your phone numbers. I just blocked 2 the other day. I was so tired of getting them. Okay. And again, the scammers are good at what they do. If they weren't, they wouldn't be doing it. And if they weren't nice to you when they first called, you're not going to be nice to them back. You're not going to establish that rapport. Okay. And that is what they need in order to go further with their presentation to you and try to scam you. So again, don't pick up the phone. If you do, hang up on them. Now again, legitimate calls have to be made between 8 and 9. They cannot use vulgarity. They cannot swear at you. They have to tell you who they're calling from. And if any of that happens, you're threatened, it's not a legitimate call. Now, last year, our own Attorney General, William Tong, who you see there, right there in the picture, he joined 51 other Attorney Generals and 12 companies against illegal robocalls. It is a never-ending process trying to tackle these robocalls. And it's very difficult because nobody has really found a way to stop them from happening, because they just get a new phone number and the process starts all over again. So that's why the best thing to do is just to ignore the call coming in. The other scam, the emergency phone call, and I touched upon this before. You get a phone call in, it says, "Hey, Graham, it's me. I need your help." "Bobby, is that you?" "Bobby, what's wrong?" Well, you've already told the scammer now some very personal information, that you have a grandson named Bobby. And already, when you say, "Bobby, what's wrong?" that emotion is already kicking in, because you're getting this alarming phone call in an emergency situation. "Hey, yeah, Graham, hey, my friends and I, we were away for the weekend. We ended up getting into a fight. We were arrested. Now we're in jail. My parents are going to kill me if they ever find out about this. Please do not tell them." "Sure, Bobby, what can I do to help?" I mean, how many grandparents would not help their grandchild out? Excuse me. "Graham, I need you to wire money, because that's the only way that I'm going to get out of here." So there you go. You've got the emotion that's kicking in. You've got the story from Bobby, and they're already trying to get you to wire the money. This grandparent scam has been going around for years. And again, if it wasn't successful, they wouldn't be doing it, but it is. Okay. So if you get that kind of phone call in, if you have somebody else with you, see if you can get them to call that grandchild or their parents and just say, "Hey, how's Bobby doing?" Or, "Bobby, you okay?" I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to get in touch with them, and you're going to find out that they are perfectly fine. Okay. Also, see if you can, call the phone number back. Tell them that, there's a bad connection. Make up some type of excuse where you have to call them back to see if it is a legitimate number. Because a lot of times they'll tell you that they're calling from the courthouse, they're calling from the jail. So see if you can call them back. Excuse me. Another one, identity theft. I've already touched upon a lot of this. What I wanted to tell you is that the 3 credit reporting bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, if you find out that you are a victim of identity theft, contact one of them to see if they can put a fraud alert on your credit report. Okay. The fraud alert is the businesses must try to verify your identity before extending new credit. Okay. It used to cost you money for it. Now it's free with the government. So there's no monetary out-of-pocket expense to you. If you find out, you have to take steps to protect yourself. So consider a fraud alert. Also consider putting a security or credit freeze on your credit file. If you know you're not going to be making any big purchases, see about putting these freezes on your credit. That will make that whoever you're trying to purchase something from, they have to go through additional steps before they can provide you with that new credit. And again, to lift the freeze, you have to contact each of the reporting bureaus. Okay. Whoops, sorry about that. And also with the, I think it's with the freeze, you'll get assigned a PIN number that you have to use every time that so you still will have access to your accounts, but you have to use that PIN number if you want to gain access to your credit and make a particular purchase. The "Can you hear me now" scam. You receive a phone call from somebody, Rachel at Card Services, and she'll say, "Hi," and then she'll say, "Can you hear me now?" Well, what she's actually doing is she's recording. When you say, "Yes, I can," or you say, "Yes," she's recording that. And that yes is then used later to, when you find out that you were, that you had made a purchase, that you agreed to something, they'll say, "Oh yes, we have your recording right here. You authorized us to do it." And they will have that yes that they have recorded. Okay, and sometimes she'll say, "Oh, I'm having trouble with my headset, so can you hear me now?" And that is when they will be recording your yes and your acknowledgement. The IRS scam, debit collector, and the FBI scam. Again, this has to go with when they portray themselves as a government employee or somebody from a debt collection company. But there are certain protocols that I mentioned before that they have to use. They cannot call after 9 o'clock at night. They cannot threaten you. They cannot use profanity, things of that nature. So if you find somebody doing that, that should be a huge red flag to go up that it is not a legitimate phone call. If you find out that you are a victim of identity theft with the IRS, contact your accountant immediately. And I also tell people, when you're going to be filing your taxes, try to file them as early as possible so that if somebody does have your Social Security number, they cannot then use it to file your taxes and get your return back. Okay, so try to file your taxes as early as you possibly can. If you find out, if somebody does use your Social Security number and gains your income tax refund, it takes a long time to recover that. We had a woman in our office where somebody had used her son's Social Security number, and it took her a couple of years to get it straightened out. The jury duty scam. People in your particular age group, mine and above, we're very dedicated to doing our jury duty service. It's the way that we were brought up. We take it very seriously. We consider our obligation. Excuse me. Allergies are killing me, so excuse me. Excuse me. But you may get a phone call from a court system saying, "Hey, Mrs. Jones, I happen to notice here that you missed your jury duty obligation. That was yesterday. I'm looking here at the records. You've never missed it before. I know that you're very dedicated and diligent with this." And again, it's that alarming phone call that puts our guard down and our emotions start kicking in. "Oh my God, I can't believe I missed it. You're right. I've never missed it." I know. But don't worry about it. I can take care of it for you. I know that this is disturbing, but don't worry about it. I can take care of it. I just need a little bit of personal information from you. Let me just go into your file so I can update it as we talk, and we can take care of it. And so they'll start asking you for some of your personal information, your date of birth, Social Security number, your bank account, perhaps your credit card. And they'll tell you, "Look, there's a fine that goes along with this. So what I can do is and again, they have different approaches to it. I can take down your credit card information, and I can have the fine taken care of, and it won't even go on your record. We'll wipe it clean. Give me your Social Security number, so I'll go in here and I'll take care of that. And again, take it out of the system. I'll update it that it's been resolved. Change it that you actually did appear. Whatever their scheme is on it. But again, their main goal is to get personal information out of you. Okay. And again, with a lot of times the scammers will also use green dot cards. That's when they'll ask you to go to like a CVS or a Walgreens and say, "Hey, I want you to make this payment to me with the green dot card, or with some of their other cards that they have where you can just put a monetary value on that particular card." We had a woman that had contacted our office, and it was over the, I don't recall if it was the jury duty scam. I think it was the grandparent scam. And She was told to go down to CVS and purchase a green dot card and put $5,000 on it to get her grandson out of jail. And these people, they live by very simple means. So she went down to CVS, very alarmed, thinking that her grandson is in trouble. Put the monetary amount of $5,000 on the green dot card. The scammers called her and they said, okay, read off the numbers on the back of the card, and that will take care of everything. And as soon as she read off those numbers, that $5,000 was gone. Now, these scammers were very, very brass. They had the nerve to call her back and say, sorry, but the judge increased the bond amount that you need to supply for your grandson to get out of jail. It's now another $5,000. Well, we don't have that money. We only have another $4,000. That's all the money that we have. And they said, okay, fine. We'll take that $4,000. And so she went down to the CVS store, bought another $4,000 to put on the green dot card. Scammers called her right back. She read them the numbers. Boom, that money was gone. Now, again, if you find out that you are a victim, that you have done something like this, contact our office immediately. Our office has a lot of contacts at these various companies in the executive office. So we can kind of cut through the red tape so you're not on a customer service line. For this particular person, Miss Perry, we're able to contact Apple. And unfortunately, out of the $9,000 that was missing, that was taken by the scammers, they actually missed one card. Because I apologize now that the memory is coming back to me. They had them purchase a couple of cards and put $200 on a card, $500 on a card, things of that nature. Well, the scammers happened to miss the numbers on one of the cards, so we were able to, working with Apple, actually recover $500 for her because of that one card that the scammers missed. And sad to say, of their $9,000 in all the savings that they had, we were only able to give her $500 back. But that's why we encourage you, if you find out that you are a victim of a scam, contact our office immediately. Another scam, the romance scams. $304 million was lost last year to people that reported being a victim of the romance scams. It's staggering, the amount of money that is lost to this. And again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. People live alone. They're lonely. They may not get a phone call from anybody for a couple of weeks. It makes them very susceptible. And the scammers know that. So you have to put your guard up. Also, the live-in companion scam. People have thought when their parent needs a live-in companion, so they'll go ahead and they'll hire Sally. Sally passes all the background checks and so forth. So Sally is hired to care for your loved one. Well, what the family of the loved one doesn't realize is that Sally has actually hired somebody else to actually care for their loved one. So they're paying Sally, and Sally is then making a small amount of payment to the person that's actually doing the care for their loved one. So you may hire somebody that you think is very good and reputable. They've passed the background checks, but in essence, Sally is really undercutting it and hiring somebody else that you don't even know is caring for your loved one. You don't know that person can be stealing from your loved one, can be abusing your loved one. You have no idea, because that's not who you actually hired. So if you find out that you have hired somebody to care for a loved one, find ways to check up on your loved one. Going to visit is the best way. Now, it's not always possible. And what you'll find, though, is other red flags that can go up is that if you're trying to get in contact with your loved one and they're not answering the phone, but the caretaker is, your loved one's never available to talk to them, your loved one does not sound like their old self when they're talking to you. It sounds like their responses are very guarded. Your conversation is not a carefree conversation. These are all red flags that you need to recognize to think that something is not right there and that your loved one could potentially be in jeopardy. If you have somebody that is taking advantage of your loved one, they're very guarded. They never let your loved one out of their sight. They don't let the loved one make phone calls. They don't let visitors in, even if it's a family member. All these things have to be red flags for you to recognize. And again, of course, this is always very important for Christy and Jeanette, just by the nature of the work that you do. So you have to, be aware, if you hear somebody talking about that, I called my dad and he's not sounding like himself. It's first of all, it's very difficult to even get him on the phone. It's usually his living companion, his caretaker that I always get to. They're the ones always answering the phone. I stop over to see my dad. Oh, he's taking a nap. No, but I'll tell him that you stopped by. There's always a reason why they don't want you to make contact and to see your loved one. Okay, so put your guard up for situations like that, because there's usually a really good reason why that's happening. Okay. When you're gonna go purchase a car, never do it over the internet. I've had people that have called our office because they've wired money to go buy a car down in say Virginia, somewhere out of state. And when they go to that particular address where they're supposed to be purchasing the car, it's an empty lot. There's no business there. There's no house there. There's no car there. But your money is gone. Okay. Going to purchase a car, review the maintenance logs of the vehicle. How well was that car taken care of? Ladies, perception is 9/10. Bring a man with you, even if they don't know anything about cars. The thought is that they do, and that there's a lesser chance that you're going to be taken advantage of if you have a man with you. Take that vehicle for a test drive. Our office handle a lot of complaints where people don't even get the car home, and it's smoking and it's disabled and it's dead by the side of the road. Okay. Lift the floor mats. Is the carpet wet or does it smell like mildew? Are there water lines on the different panels in there? Huge indication that car was involved in an area of the United States where there was a flood, a hurricane. And unfortunately, again, when you have a car dealership or something like that loses all this inventory, they want to get rid of it. So make yourself aware of these things. If, again, if the car smells funny, whatever, damp inside, check it out first, really good. Bring it to a mechanic. Say, look, I want to bring it to my own mechanic, have him check it out. If that mechanic can't go with you when you're purchasing it. Okay. Let's see. And again, if a warranty exists, it's going to be on the purchase agreement. If it does not say it on there, you don't have it and you have no recourse. Okay. The internet. And again, this is huge now. Just like we use the computer more and more every day, so do the scammers. Okay. If it's, it's that old adage also, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. You get a really great offer to purchase something, check it out for yourself. And even on Facebook, there's so many advertisements on Facebook. Check to see what the comments are that people are saying. I just happened to be looking for a pair of sunglasses the other day. And when I clicked on the comments there, people were saying, yeah, I sent, my money off, weeks ago, months ago, haven't received the product, call customer service, can't get through to anybody there. Nobody responds to the email address that I have. That's a huge flag that you want to just stay away from it. I also saw something on there where they were advertising patio furniture at a steal. It was about $100 for a 6-piece set. And people are like, oh, I can't wait to get this set. And they were all excited about it. What a great price on this. And then you saw other comments afterwards saying, from people saying that never received it. Again, if you purchase it by credit card, contact your credit card company immediately. If you use PayPal for it, contact PayPal immediately. Okay. You have to make contact with those sources to try to recover your money. Okay. If you see, an email that you don't recognize, a solicitation, and you have the opportunity to click on it to remove your email address from further communications, don't click on it. Just delete it and put it in your junk box. Because what that's doing when you click on it is you are simply confirming your email address out there to that person or that scammer that sent it. Okay. And again, be very careful with what's being advertised out there. We handled a case where this gentleman from the southeastern part of the state was offering these beautiful apartments for rent right on the Thames River. It was show pictures of it out there, these completely renovated apartments in great shape. And he would have people send their deposit to him. And once he got the deposit, people were then going to move into their places. People found that they were, the apartment, in some cases didn't exist. In other ones, they were uninhabitable because there was just so much damage to the apartments. And in other cases, they found people already living in those apartments. And these were people that had packed up their belongings and moved over there. Some, one case in particular, this woman, that's single mom, packed up, got rid of her own place because it was like, oh my gosh, it's just so beautiful, you know, to live in a place like this overlooking a beautiful river, and it didn't even exist. All right. Now we were able to. He ended up going to jail, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, it doesn't help the people if they can't get their money back. You know, if that scammer has already spent the money. So again, be very careful about purchasing something where you have not actually, especially a big purchase, sight unseen. I'm not talking about a company, you know, that you haven't dealt with before. I'm talking about something that you're not familiar with. You receive an email out of the blue. And again, it's something that just appears too good to be true. Texting scams. You get them most often from a bank stating that there's an issue with your credit card, gives you a phone number to call. Don't call that phone number. You get the text message from your bank. You do your own due diligence. You look up the phone number for that bank. Because again, it's going to be the scammer's phone number on there. So don't call the scammers back. Look at it, the information yourself. Okay. Contact your local bank, you know, if it's involving, you know, your bank card. Don't hit the stop button. It confirms, again, it just confirms it that it's an active phone number. Again, delete it. Don't make contact with it. Okay. Let's see. You can also forward that particular text to 7726. It spells spam, and that goes into a data bank where they monitor and they try to take action against that particular perpetrator. Lottery scam. Can't win if you don't play. Whoops. And lotteries from outside of the United States are illegal anyhow. So it's very tempting when you receive that letter saying that you won all these millions of dollars. You didn't win anything. Again, don't take action on it. And certainly, if you do win something, you don't have to pay something to claim your prize. You don't have to pay taxes. You don't have to pay things of that nature on it. So be very, very careful. Delivery companies. Again, especially around the holidays, or the fact that so many people are conducting business and making purchases over the internet. Everybody sees the Amazon trucks all day long going around and making their deliveries. Scammers will follow those delivery trucks. And when the delivery is made, they'll check see if the coast is clear and go and grab that package. Now, the great thing is that so many people have invested in security cameras now. So that is definitely helpful. But if you don't have a security camera, be very careful about, you know, if you do order something over the internet, see if you can, you know, make sure that you're going to be home when that package is going to be delivered. Or if you know that somebody is going to be in a particular office, you know, have that package delivered there. You know, obviously you can contact the company that you purchased it from, but a lot of times it involves a lot more headaches than if you were just to try to be proactive in the first place and get that package delivered when you know you're going to be home or to a safe environment. Perhaps your son or daughter works in a doctor's office and they're always open. You know, they didn't shut down during the pandemic. So you can have it delivered there. Okay. Let's see. Home improvements. Don't pay for repairs up front and stay away from those that require it. You know, you can give a deposit. Usually that's not a problem. But when you have your heart to sell people, hey, look at, I have some asphalt left in my truck here. You want me to do your driveway? Your driveway really needs, you know, some additional work done to it. I see all the cracks out there. You know, it's those hard to sell approaches. You know, oh, look at this is just here for today because, you know, I just happen to have some extra asphalt on, you know, on the truck. So, you know, if you want it, you know, I need cash. You know, a lot of times you pay them in cash, you don't see them again. Excuse me, they're gone. Okay. And if it's particular home improvements that you want, one thing that you can do is you can, and this is what we do. My husband is an Air Force veteran, so we get the military discount at Lowe's. So a lot of times, if we're going to have home improvements done, we'll ask that contractor, can you write up what goods we're going to need? We'll go down to Lowe's and get them because we can use my husband's military discount. That way, you're purchasing the materials yourself. You can always return them many times if you find out that, you know, the person doesn't show up to do the work. And also then all you're going to owe for is the labor. You're not going to be charged for materials, and you're not going to pay the labor until they finish the work. Okay, so you know, a lot of times if somebody is asking you for a payment up front, it's usually because they have to go ahead and purchase the materials. But if you go ahead and purchase them, there's no need for them to get any money up front. Okay. Always try to use contractors that you've used before, somebody that comes recommended. Go to the Department of Consumer Protection, to their website, and see if that contractor is licensed. Most of the contractors have to be licensed. And if their license has been suspended, it's usually for a good reason. Try to get, always require the contractor's certificate of insurance prior to any work being done. Because if they do faulty workmanship or they don't show up and you have the certificate of insurance out there, then you can make a claim against their insurance company. Sometimes these contractors will say, oh, it's such a pain to get it. I can never get in touch with my agent. That's a bunch of BS. It's as easy as making a phone call. And when they call their insurance agent, they can also have the insurance agent just email you or fax you or text you their certificate of insurance. So there is no good reason why that contractor cannot provide you with a certificate of insurance. And also, it will tell you on there if they have workers' comp coverage, which is important because you want to make sure that if they get hurt while they're on your property, that they have a means of taking care of their own medical bills. Okay. Yeah, get a couple of estimates. Don't always just go with one estimate unless you feel very comfortable with that contractor because they've done good quality work for you in the past and they come highly recommended. Okay. And also check with your local building officials to verify if a permit is needed for a particular job. And if so, whose obligation is it to get that permit? Is it you as the homeowner or is it the contractor? Okay, you don't want to find out afterwards that they were supposed to get a permit and they did not. And all of a sudden, that porch that they put on has to be dismantled because a proper permit was not obtained. Okay. There's also, if you find out that you are a victim of a home improvement scam, contact our office or the Department of Consumer Protection. They have what they call a guarantee fund, where all contractors that are registered with them have to put in so much money into this particular fund. And that fund is designated to compensate people that if they've been taken advantage of by a contractor and they go to court and they get a judgment against that contractor, this fund is designed to provide funds out to that particular person that was taken advantage of. Let's see, work from home opportunities or mystery shoppers. Every once in a while, you'll see an advertisement in a paper or you'll get an email, something like that. They'll say, hey, be a mystery shopper. Go into a store, make these purchases, and then rate provide us with feedback and rate the how the person at Walmart, the cashier, performed her job. Well, a lot of times, then they'll say, okay, look, we're going to send you a check for your work, and that check, say if they're going to pay you $500, that check will be for $1,500, and they'll tell you, oh, sorry, I'm changing banks here, so this was on my old bank. Just deposit the check and just send me, a check back for $1,000. That way you're keeping your $500 and you're getting your payment for it. That check is going to bounce better than a basketball, the check that they send you. And unfortunately, it may be a couple of days, it may be a couple of weeks before that bank can verify and confirm whether or not that check is legitimate or not. Okay. So, and I know, sometimes that, senior citizen, young kid, or I shouldn't say senior citizen, somebody, over 60, they're looking for a part-time job to do. So maybe, this sounds enticing to them. A young kid, a teenager looking for, a job. Again, these jobs sound enticing, which is what they're designed to do, capture your interest. And they do. So you really need to be aware of it. I know that a lot of times, like Craigslist and even the ads in the paper, they will now promote the fact that be very careful, if you are responding to an ad to be a mystery shopper or work from home opportunity, because they are not always legitimate. Work from home opportunity, you should not have to pay for anything up front, no starter kits or anything like that. You should never have to pay to work a job. Okay, so be very careful about that. And also, when you do receive something in the mail, and again, it looks like it's a check, and maybe it's coming from your bank, and it's like, okay, maybe it's a dividend check I didn't realize I was getting. These stimulus checks out there, must be something along those lines. Before you go ahead and cash that check, Google that institution or call your bank and say, hey, is this one of your other locations? Because that scammer, especially with the P.O. box, that scammer can take that P.O. box and just change one number on it as they send these checks out. And those checks are, when you respond, are going to to their P.O. box and not yours. And a lot of times, again, that happens to be when they ask you to cash their particular check and then to send the balance, the proceeds onto them. So be very careful. You don't want to cash a check that is not legitimate. Okay. And also, I know MoneyGram and Western Union, they've taken a lot of steps to, if you go to wire any money in that particular manner, to have it right on a little placard that's sitting up right on the counter there, and ask you if you personally know to whom you're going to be wiring that money. They're trying to take whatever steps they can to prevent people from wiring money to somebody that they don't know, because either it's one of those too good to be true opportunities, or it's through a grandparent scam or a lottery scam, something of that nature. So they're trying to do whatever steps they can to prevent people from sending that money out there. Okay. And again, the phishing is what I was referring to, where the company may change that post office box number just off by one digit. And instead of that money going to who you think it's going to, it's actually going to the scammer. So it's not going to Bank of America or Discover Card, something of that nature. Okay. Foreclosure Rescue. A couple of years ago, our country was in just an absolute disastrous mess with the people that were trying to refinance their mortgages, people that had arms, for their mortgages where the variable, the interest rate was variable, and people were getting in over their heads, trying to remortgage, refinance their mortgages. There were so many foreclosure rescue scams that were out there. And the saddest part is that it was hitting people that were most vulnerable and people that could least afford to lose any money. And they were offering to work with them to get them a new mortgage or to refinance their existing mortgage. And they were telling people, that they needed, $2,500, $5,000 to be paid to them up front. And once that payment was made, a lot of times the The homeowners never heard back from those companies before. And again, that money was gone. So never pay upfront fees. And I tell you, one of the greatest things about the internet is that there's so many things that you can Google now to ask. Excuse me. Should I pay up? Should I pay for my this foreclosure rescue company? You Google the name of that company. You're going to see different blogs that people put up about that, because that's something else, is that people, if they have been scammed, they're so ticked off about it, they're letting other people know about it, which is really a great way of also getting the word out there that a particular company or a person is not legitimate. Okay. I talked before about Frank Abagnale, and I just wanted to mention a couple of other tidbits that he provided us that were in the audience with. And let me tell you, from the minute he came out on stage, I started writing down information, and I didn't stop until he was done. He was absolutely phenomenal. He was fascinating. He was wonderful. Without a doubt, one of the best speakers I've ever heard. And he does have a couple of books out. And again, when I contacted him, he was so kind and so sweet. He sent me, he autographed one of his books, and he sent it to me. And, it was just kind gentleman. Then again, is trying to spread the word so that people are not taken advantage of. I mentioned before, an infant or a child's social security number, the most precious piece of information a scammer can hope to get. The best creditworthy action you take for your children or grandchildren to establish their credit, around the age of 18, take out a credit card with you as the co-signer. Now, obviously, you have to work out the parameters that they're not buying everything that they want, but this will help them to establish credit. Okay, 90% of the perpetrators come from family members that the victim has known well. Why? Because you don't have your guard up with them. There's that comfort level. There's that trust. And they know it. You may go to make a payment out and write a check out, and all of a sudden you find out that you're missing a check out of your checkbook. One that was taken at the very end or right in the middle. That's coming from somebody that has access to your house and that has access to that particular checkbook. So be cautious. Most family members, you want to believe are going to be trustworthy and that they love you. They would never take advantage of you. Most of them are that way, but when you have been violated, 90% of the time it is from a family member. So, and again, and this pertains not only to seniors, people my age. We relate best to other people our age because we have more in common with them. So if you find out that you've been a victim, you may not want to tell your children about it. You may want to talk to somebody around your own age about it. Maybe they've experienced the same thing. We don't want our children, say if we're 80, like my dad, 85 years of age, he won't want to tell me, who he's closest to, if he's been a victim of something, because then I'm going to sit there and say, well, is he okay in making other decisions, financial decisions, health decisions, things of that nature? And I understand it mainly because of my job and what I do here, but also because I am the one that he talks to a lot about things going on. So you have to understand, if you think that something is not right, you want to look into it, talk to one of your friends your age. Talk to somebody, Christy or Jeanette, who you feel comfortable with, coming in and, and you're always visiting, the Woodbridge Senior Center. Talk to somebody that you have a good rapport with, that you know is going to have your best interest out there. Okay. A couple of years ago, Equifax, they had a data breach, and it was horrible because what was stolen were things that don't change. Somebody's date of birth, somebody's social security number. Okay. Your credit card is stolen, you call up and cancel it. When your social security number is stolen, you can't call up and cancel it. Okay. That's why that breach hit home for so many people, because it truly was a violation. A violation of something that is very, of our own personal information. Okay. Ransomware comes from links and emails. You see an email out there and it tells you to click on the link in the email. If you're not familiar with it, who sent it to you, where you're going to be going when you click on that, do not click on that email. Retype that email into your toolbar at the top and make sure that there's HTTPS. The S stands for secure. Okay, so that is a secure site. You don't have the S up there, don't do it. And do not click on any links within an email that you're not familiar with. Go ahead and retype that link in the toolbar yourself. Okay. And again, hackers don't cause data breaches, people do, because you've done something you weren't supposed to do, or you did something again that you weren't supposed to do. It's either from doing something or not doing something. I guess that's a better way to say it, that you were supposed to do, and taking actions to prevent, to protect yourself. Okay. Tips for you and your family. Don't carry Social Security number, Medicare card care with you. First of all, thank heavens the Medicare cards no longer have your Social Security number on there. That was long overdue in taking that off of there. But you go to the doctor, they already have your your Medicare number there. They don't need to ask you for it again, certainly not over the phone. If they do, because they had a computer glitch or something like that where they lost information, you can always get that to them. You don't have to carry your card on you, and certainly not your Social Security card. Too easy to misplace it, drop it, don't. Okay. Use a black or blue Uniball gel pen because the ink cannot be altered. Okay. When you pay by check, keep in mind, and a lot of us pay by check, but you are given the receiver information as far as your bank, your routing number, and your account number. Okay. You reconcile your credit card statements and any other bills you have. Don't throw it in the trash, shred it. And again, this was something that Frank Abagnale said. Don't just get a shredder that just shreds stuff down like this. Get one that shreds it into the little micro, get a micro cross shredder. It shreds it into the tiny little pieces so that people cannot tape that information, tape those papers back together again and see everything on there that you didn't want them to see, your personal information. When you can pay by credit card, do so, especially on a bigger purchase, because you will always have an opportunity to dispute it. If you don't get your item, it's not the one that you had purchased or you thought you were purchasing. So you do have more options paying by credit card. When you're paying, sending out a check for a bill, don't put it in your mailbox and put that red flag up. What that red flag does is it tells everybody out there that you've got a piece of mail that you're waiting to be picked up. And most times it is a payment for something, your credit card payment, your electricity payment, anything like that. Go and bring that to a post office, or if, like as an example of Woodbridge Senior Center, if they have a mailbox there where you can put your information in, where the mailman comes in and personally picks up the information, or you have a blue box that you, post office box that you can put it in there, certainly do that. My brother was a police officer for 29 years, and he was the one that had first told me about this. You put, a payment in the mailbox, put the red flag up. So when you're telling the scammers and everybody else out there driving by that you have a piece of mail ready to go out. And again, as I mentioned, a lot of times it's payments for a bill. There's what they call whitewashing. And that is when the scammers will take your mail, and if it's payment that's going to go to like Eversource or Discover Card, whatever, they will whitewash it, which means that they will take off the word Eversource or Discover and write it out to cash or themselves. And before you know it, that payment's not going to who you think it's going to that particular scammer. So again, just another reason why you don't put your payment for bills in your mailbox and put the flag up. Okay. And also, of course, try to retrieve your mail as soon as you can. Most times your postman delivers at the same time every day. You can get one credit check regularly every year. You can go to annualcreditreport.com. That's who the Federal Trade Commission recommends. Now, I know that the downside to that is that you have to give out your Social Security number, because that's how they trace it back to who you really are. I know. I hear people talk about that all the time, and I completely agree. Unfortunately, that's the only way that you can actually get a credit report done. Okay. Practice safe computing. If you go and you're using a public computer, be very careful. Don't conduct financial transactions there. And be very careful when putting in your password and even your history of where you're going. The person that sits on that computer next can look at the history, excuse me, of where you've been and the sites that you visited. You are selecting security questions. Don't, when you're going to be asked the question, don't give out something like, what's your mother's maiden name? That's public information. Somebody can go and research that and easily guess it. Pick something that people are not generally going to know. Even your first pet. Chances are, unless they're a friend of the family's or a relative, they're not going to know that information. Okay, so select information where when you have to give the answer, it's not public information that somebody can just look up. Watch out for skimmers on ATMs and other devices where you're going to be making a payment. They can be purchased. If you Google skimmers, you can purchase one off the internet for about $200. You know, so be very careful. It's and if you look at that, you can see what a skimmer looks like. It's actually like a little piece of plastic that goes right where your card goes in. And so if you see something sitting on the ATM pin keypad, be very careful because that might be a skimmer. They also do them at gas stations a lot of times, especially when the attendant can't really see the ATM pad. Excuse me, because it's a distance away or something like that. A lot easier to put it on there, and it's going to go unnoticed for quite some time usually until damage is done. And when you are using your ATM, try to block, block your PIN number when you're putting it in there. Whether you take your wallet out and you put it next to it so that you are, covering it up so that nobody can see it, especially with the day and age of cell phones. People will stand behind you and videotape you putting in your PIN number on a keypad. Be very careful. Try to block it as much as you can. Okay. Don't post front shots of yourself, because if somebody is going to take your shot, your picture, and utilize it for identity theft, it's not going to be a side picture like this, like on your driver's license. It's going to be a front shot. So when you're posting stuff on, excuse me, the internet and so forth, try to be aware of that. Especially if it's a picture where it's just a view. If it's a family picture, it's a lot harder to, just take that one picture out of there. So just be aware of that. I talked to you about filing your income tax returns early. Again, try to protect yourself from somebody else beating you to it. Law enforcement's not going to call and ask you for money or personal information. And they're certainly not going to, they're certainly not going to give you a heads up that they're going to come over and arrest you. Excuse me. So when you get a phone call that says, hey, I'm calling, from the IRS, you didn't pay your income taxes. I'm coming over in a half an hour to arrest you. They're not going to give you a heads up, so you're going to be sitting there waiting on your couch for them. Another red flag when you receive a phone call like that. Be aware of your surroundings. Notice those red flags that I've been talking about. Notice the fact, if you have an elderly relative or a friend that lives alone, are they being isolated? Do they all of a sudden have a new person in their life? Excuse me. I apologize. My allergies are just killing me. Are you not able to gain access to that person now? Has somebody taken over their finances? Have you been removed as somebody on their bank accounts? Excuse me, 1 second. I apologize. Never send money to somebody that you don't personally know. Again, kind of goes back to the Western Union. Don't give out personal information on the internet. Let's see. I've covered a bunch of these already. check for common red flags if you receive something in writing from somebody. Somebody whose native language is not English, they tend to have grammatical errors, incorrect usage of words, misspellings, things of that nature. Be very cautious when you're dealing with people that say that they're out of the country or that they live overseas. Excuse me. They're giving you a reason why they don't want to meet in person. And again, it's much easier to scam somebody when you're not in person and face to face. If you're already friends with somebody on Facebook, get another friend request, don't accept it. They probably have been hacked. Excuse me, I'm so sorry, I apologize. Let's see, a lot of these I've already talked about. Let's see. Again, most importantly, if you've been scammed, contact our office. I mentioned we have contacts at a lot of different companies out there. We can maybe help you prevent the loss from being further. Excuse me, or even lessen the loss. And I think that's about it. I think my voice is done, and I pretty much have covered everything. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I am just going to run for one quick second and get more water. But Jeanette, if you want to take over, or Christy, I'll be back in 1 second.
Does anyone have questions who is on the Zoom? Because we can't take questions from Channel 79, unfortunately. This has been so informative and so much good material. Thank you, Christine. This is fantastic. I'm looking and I don't see anyone. Josephine, you are unmuted if you had a question. Nope, she's muted now.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, contact my office. What's the office and what's the phone number?
Oh, okay. And it's also in case, Jeanette, are you going to be putting this up on your website or anything?
It's on Channel 79. It'll be available on YouTube through Channel 79's YouTube station.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. And Josephine, that number is 860-808-5400.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the presentation. Very informative, and I appreciate it. And my question is it possible to get a new Social Security number, a new Social Security card?
It's possible from what I understand, but it's also very involved. I know somebody that was a victim of identity theft, and he wanted to have his Social Security number erased like it never existed. And it took him a couple of years for that. So, yeah, so it's really very difficult, time consuming. But you can certainly contact Social Security Administration and ask them.
All right, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I don't know if there are any other questions. We have run a little long
on
our time frame. No, you're fine. Gosh, you gave us so much great information. Thank you so much. But if anyone who's on or watching TV has a specific question, I'm sure if you send your questions to us, we can forward them to Christine and we can get you specific answers. Maybe not if it's involved and personal. You could just ask us for her contact information and we'll provide you with that, and she will she'll answer it, because we don't want your Social Security number either.
Definitely not. I don't want it either. And I have to say, it's amazing, because if somebody asks us to work on a complaint and they'll say, well, I purchased it using my Discover card, and they'll attach the Discover card, the whole statement, which has their account number on it, stuff like that. And I'll tell them, and people will also send us documents with the Social Security number on it. And it's like, no, we don't want it, because we also had a situation where, and this involved somebody's, it was a doctor's office. They kept on faxing information to the wrong fax number.
Mm.
Now, fortunately, this woman that kept on getting the information was a sweetheart and kept on telling us about it. And our office was, because I was involved with it with one of our attorneys, we kept on contacting that doctor's office and saying, hey, you've got people's personal information, the medical information, social security numbers, date of birth, going to this woman. You're lucky she's not a scam artist out there. So, just be very careful. When you're sending anything, whether it's through the mail, fax, email, text, you want to keep that information private. And as I said, even when you go to the doctor's office, so many of us have had the same doctor for so long. They have all that information on file there. So, and even if they ask you, sometimes if I'm on the phone and somebody needs to get into one of my accounts, they'll say, okay, give me your social security number. I'll ask them and say, can I answer a security question instead? And, you have that set up, and a lot of times they're willing to do that because they understand it as well. So you want to try to keep that personal information as personal as possible.
I just want to echo what Jeanette said. I'm very grateful that you came, Christine, and
Thank you.
and you shared that wealth of information, and especially with your allergies bothering you so much. And
Sorry about
going
that.
through,
I'm like, can you
appreciate
get that out of the video, please? For people listening.
I'm sure people can relate, unfortunately.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
You're
Sure.
welcome. Thank you.